Hey everyone, so I'm out here watering my backyard, and I wanted to just talk about something that I found very interesting, which was that you only earn 10% of what you're capable of earning. And a lot of people would probably sit here and say, huh? I earn 30,000 a year. There's no way that I'd be making 300,000. Or, huh? I earn 50,000 a year. There's no way I should be making half a million a year. Or someone might say I make 100,000 a year. There's no way I should be making $1 million a year, or it could be. But here's the thing: there are people out here doing it all the time, and they're in the top 10% of people, which by statistics really does mean that 90% of people are underachieving. And with that understanding, it truly becomes a you question. Who do you believe you are? What do you believe you can achieve? You see, I helped my friend with his resume the other day, and he had got a job as an assistant manager. He had never been an assistant manager before in his life. But because I decided to apply for a job in which he got that title, he now is able to look for new opportunities with the same title, with the same understanding, right? But why did I apply for assistant manager positions when he had never been one before? Well, the answer is very simple. Because when I was in college, I was offered many, many manager positions. And it was like falling in my lap. Everyone wanted me to be a manager, and I do not know why for the life of me. But as an associate, I would always say, no, 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 I'm focused on college. And honestly, they didn't give me a choice. They promoted me anyway. And I just had no choice but to be a manager. Or was I going to quit my job because I got a promotion? Like, come on now, of course not. So it's a weird story, right? Not everybody is forced into higher positions of power. But essentially, that's what I was forced to do. And so when I graduated college, I now felt entitled to receive a certain amount of money. And here's why. I had just transferred back to New York from upstate New York, and I no longer wanted to be an associate. I didn't want to work for someone for pennies on a dollar, knowing that I could make more with just a title change, like assistant manager or manager. And because I knew that, and because I had done that already, I said there is absolutely no way I don't do that now. And so when I was applying for my friend, I said, wow, you got all this experience. You have no manager experience. But if I apply for 100, 200 jobs, as I typically do for myself even, I'm pretty sure someone's going to say, wow, with all the experience you have, you can definitely be a manager here. Let me sit down with this person, see how educated they are, see if they're trainable. And they'll go ahead and they'll show you the jobs that you're capable of doing. There are people who earn multiple six figures a year who needed to be trained on how to do their job. And all they had was 20 years of experience in another industry in an upper level position, and yet they had to be trained how to do their job at this specific company, right? And so if you go through a year training, 6 months training, 3 months training, just to be what you're supposed to be for another company, that tells you all you need to know. As long as you're trainable, as long as you're coachable, the job is yours. And a lot of the time when people who get those positions where they're being trained for a year, it's typically because they've had a long history of being at one place. What does that mean? If I want to transfer from Target to Amazon and be a vice president or president, Amazon, before they train me, knowing that it's going to take them maybe 7 months of training, paying me a 6-figure plus salary, they're going to say, okay, how long has this person been at Target? If I've been at Target 8, 9, 10 years, they're going to say, okay, this is someone who is reliable, someone who's going to stay, someone who's going to be worth the investment, because essentially they're investing a lot of time into you in order to get you there. They're not going to choose the person who never had experience in this area and has flip-flopped from job to job, right? But you can essentially gauge what your value is by just throwing that resume out there. And so, before I was a general manager, I applied for general manager positions. I was not promoted to general manager to run restaurants. No. I simply applied to general manager positions. And the first company to reach back out to me was Tim Hortons. And they said, hey, you have experience in the restaurant industry, but you've never been a general manager of a restaurant industry. And we see that you have this experience leading a large group of people. So we're going to give you a shot here to run a restaurant. I took it, ran with it, and I became a general manager. Now, after roughly 2 to 3 years of GM experience, I'm like, okay, the path to being a district manager, there is a path to be a district manager at the company I work for now. But that path is 3 years long. And it's my understanding that although 3 years doesn't seem like too long a time to wait, initially I was told 2 years. So, that 3-year number that's being thrown around is just a gauge, I would say. It's not a definitely if you stay here for 3 years, you will be a general manager. No, it's just a gauge. It's something to take into reference. It might take 2 years. It might even take 5 years. But within that range, I would assume that I could be a district manager within 2 to 5 years at the very least, right? So with that understanding, I would then ask myself, is this smart for me after 2 years with this company to not shop myself around and not see if I'm capable of being a district manager? Am I happy in my current role? Does this bring me fulfillment and joy? If the answer to those questions are yes, then I would be more inclined to stay, because not only do I feel a sense of happiness working for this company, but I understand that the path towards success is paved in gold, and that I would be reaching that sooner rather than later. And if you're happy at your job, if you're motivated to do your job, the likelihood of you doing your job to the best of your abilities is very, very high. And so with that being said, you want to take that into account, right? A lot of people will never apply for upper management positions. And here's the thing. I know people who have worked the job for 20 plus years and never, ever asked for a raise, never, ever asked for the ability to move up. They've been content where they were. They had to be told that they could be assistant managers. They had to be told that they could be more. But look at me. I'll apply for a district manager position, and I've never been a district manager. I've always been that step below. But at 25 years old, to have already put that into play, have already been rejected by a few companies, have already been on interviews with some companies for district manager positions, at some point, somebody's going to say, you know what? You're worth training. And it might not be this year. It might be next year. But guess what? I know that the fact that I'm able to sit down and have interviews with these people mean that they're somewhat interested. That's all that means. If someone wants to sit down and talk to me, and yes, they'll 9 times out of 10, they typically offer me a position that is right below basically where I'm already at. And essentially, of course, I'll just say no, because where I'm at now, it doesn't make sense. And so essentially, what am I getting? I'm getting an opportunity to prove my worth, to prove what I'm capable of doing. And honestly, a district manager role to me is not a lot of work. It's not much of a step up from a general manager. You're essentially managing a bunch of general managers who happen to have been doing the same job that you've been doing for the last couple of years. The difference is that someone being as young as me as a district manager is not common at all. In fact, even as a general manager is not very common. And so, to swallow that, to understand that, for someone to be okay with that, it takes a lot. It takes someone who is very comfortable with who they are as a person, because to see me at my age as a district manager can be intimidating. It can very well be intimidating. But if I was to do the same interview at 40 years old, I promise you, no one would bat an eye. But they understand, okay, this guy is educated, this guy is trainable, this guy knows his stuff, this guy knows what he's doing. So for me to spend 3, 4, 5 years doing the same thing over and over again only shows that I'm willing to put time in and have loyalty at a specific place. But it doesn't show that I typically love what I do and want to continue doing it. And so, unless you find that, you'll just continue to be bouncing around. So I want to love what I do, and I also want to make what I'm supposed to make. A lot of these companies don't need you to love what they do anymore these days. In fact, they're more focused on, are you just going to stay and do the job? They know you can do the job. They just want to know if you'll stay to do the job, and if money is going to keep you doing the job, right? So the incentive is not to impress you, is not to find ways to keep you, but more so is just to just keep you in that position as long as they possibly can before having to find another replacement because of turnover and this and that and whatever else. So I guess what I'm trying to say is there are so many opportunities out here for you to dive into. Management is just one lane, it's just one field. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're looking to start a business, if you're looking to grow at something, the best thing to do is look what's one step above. I like to be a producer or editor. What's a step above that? Editor 2, editor 3. What companies pay the most for that position? News outlets. I've even looked at news outlets. I've never been a journalist. I've never done these things. But I know that those who are in the entertainment space typically make millions and millions and millions of dollars. I want to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. That's my mindset. And so I'll apply for things that help me get to where I need to get to. And if I knew everything, every single job that would get me $1 million today, I promise you one of them would say yes. Why? Based on my resume, based on my experience, based on what I can articulate, based on my communication skills, and just off the simple fact that if they like me as a human being, as a person, I would be able to get $1 million job today. But the problem is you don't know all the $1 million jobs. You don't know how to apply for them. You don't know what companies to apply for. It might require you to change states. Are you willing? Are you ready to do that? And so all of those things are questions that you need to answer. And if you haven't been asking those questions, it's time for you to ask yourself those questions. It's time for you to get to work and start doing that type of work for yourself. And if you like this video, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure right after that you hop on LinkedIn and get to work. All right. I post every single day at 8 a.m. daily, and I can't wait to see you on the next one. Peace.